Thank you, Chairman. For either or both Mr. Folk or Mr. DeStasio, you know, one of the issues we follow very closely on the Intelligence Committee is how we monitor individuals that are suspected of being already involved in terrorist activities. And as you can imagine, these are exactly the people that you don't want running your critical control centers. What personnel controls does the utility industry have in place when conducting security clearances, background checks, and do you think they're sufficient? In addition, are there additional federal resources like the FBI's Terrorist Screening Center that could potentially improve that process for the industry if you had access to those?
So that is a, Senator, that is a concern because the human resources element of cyber is a significant risk as well. Most all of us, by requirements of standards and also our personnel policies, has made sure that we tightly control ingress and egress. We do have advanced background checks for certain sensitive classifications. I will say in the recent past, our National Association, American Public Power Association, as well as others, have been working with the FBI to get access to advanced background screening for certain personnel, and that language is being considered and developed now. I think, I do think it's an important point not to overlook that, and while some progress has been made, more needs to be made, and especially given the fact that there's diversity of state policy around this. And again, I represent municipal utilities, so we also have different sunshine laws in different states and different statutes. And so trying to harmonize all of that into something coherent is a fairly significant undertaking. But it is on the radar screen, if you will, as how to best deal with some of the human resource issues.
Mr. Folk, I believe you mentioned just the time-based challenge of getting security clearances. Was that you?
Yes.
The bottleneck there, is it personnel or funding to do the analysis for those clearances? And is that all on the federal government side of the ledger?
Well, it's an elaborate process, as you know, and so I think it's a time-based manual effort, so it's the manpower, which translates to the funding, I would assume.
If that funding is reduced over the course of the budget process, what would that mean for being able to adequately manage that risk?
Well, if the funding came out of that aspect of the security clearance, then I would suspect it would slow it down. And right now, as I mentioned, it's 6 to 8 months.
Pretty slow as it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Barty, I'm pretty excited about FERC's proposed rule on energy storage and distributed energy resources participating in organized wholesale markets. With these additional players from the distribution side participating in the bulk power market, does the Federal Power Act provide FERC sufficient authority to assure both security and reliability of the grid?
Senator, that's an issue we need to do more work on. Those types of resources bring value to the markets because they diversify our sources of supply, but at the same time, ensuring that the grid can be operated reliably by having visibility of what those resources will do under certain circumstances and having control if necessary is difficult under the structure we have now, where FERC is responsible for the bulk power system and states are responsible for the local distribution systems that many of these resources connect to. So I think we are very much looking at that issue, trying to be creative about ways we can address that issue. And I know the industry is too, because they're as much focused on that issue as we are. Solutions are not easy, though.
I think that's going to be particularly important. It's pretty clear that that's the direction markets are headed. I think we're going to see more DERs, we're going to see more demand response, we're going to see more storage, all aggregated in, spread across the grid, and getting the rules of the road worked out at the front end rather than responding to issues as they arise is going to be particularly important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.